Welcome to another episode. In this one, we look at is USD being challenged? This is based on a recent discussion with the Friends group. One of my friend had forwarded a Twitter video, so in which there was a discussion about whether USD is being challenged these days. So we look at various factors. So let's get started. So far, USD had a distinct advantage till now, and one of the primary reason is it is being treated as a reserve currency. That is from end of World War II, that is early 1940s. USD has been considered as a reserve currency of any country, not just US alone, but for the rest of the world countries, USD was treated as a reserve currency. And if you look at it, in any country, some of the countries can have USD as a reserve currency up to even 80, even 100%, but generally on an average it is 60%, and 20% is about the euros, and this information I got it from the web. The rest of the currency like Japanese yen or pound sterling constitute less than 10%. First, we need to understand then what is a reserve currency. So reserve currency is a strong foreign currency possessed by a central financial authority. In case of India, it could be RBI, in massive amount to use for international dealing. So that's the reserve currency, or it could be said as a foreign exchange reserves. And why do we use it? For import and export, particularly for imports. And most of the countries which doesn't have oil resources or very less of oil resources use that for particularly oil trading or oil import, and for other procurement of other goods as well. So first you need to understand what is a reserve currency, and that is a foreign exchange reserves. And that is used for international trading and particularly oil. That is a point you need to understand because there's an agreement, OPEC Agreement. Generally, this is traded in USD. So that is where the big advantage is all about. So furthermore, USD is considered as a safe bet because it keeps appreciating just like gold. Gold keeps appreciating, so everybody want to invest in US treasuries as well because it's a safe bet. In the last 20-30 years it has not depreciated, it has been appreciating, and what is more interesting is generally USD is bound to appreciate and does not depend much on any country's economy, including US. So this is what is the advantage of reserve currency. Suppose if you take any countries, China or even India or Japan, if the economy is in not good terms, their currency could fluctuate, it could depreciate. But thanks to world oil trade, that is where it becomes an advantage, because trading for oil most of the time happens in USD. Not most of the time, so far it has almost been 100% happening in USD. And now coming to another point. Any country's economic strength, be it India, be it China, be it Russia, depends on the forex reserves, generally in USD terms, and that gives the advantage to USD. And if you look at globally, China has the highest percentage or highest amount of USD. In fact, if you look at US themselves, but though for USD, US is the printing authority, and they have reserve currency far less than China. That is an interesting aspect as well. So China holds the maximum. It's about, I'm not very sure, it's about 3,000 trillion if I'm right. So the point I'm trying to say is China has the highest forex reserves in USD. Then comes, I believe it's Russia or someone else, and India is around fifth or sixth. So forex is very important. The other one is of course the gold reserves which holds. Of course here in gold reserves it is always US is on the top, and again if you look at India it's around 8th or 9th, or rather if I'm right it is on 10th. So these two factors, one is the forex reserves, the other one is the gold reserves, hold a critical factor in determining the economic strength of a country. And next only comes the other factors like GDP, public debt. This public debt is an interesting one. Most of the developed countries have a highest public debt, but most of the currency is reserve currency. I mean, apart from USD, it is euros or pound sterling and Japanese yen. But if you look at their public debt, it is far public debt versus GDP. The public debt is more than 100%. So that is another factor, but still because of the reserve currency factor and because for USD that plays a critical role. So the other factors generally GDP, public debt, inflations are next only to the forex reserves and the gold reserves which the country holds. So you can just Google it out. What are the forex reserves country wise? Similarly, what is the gold reserves country wise? And then you can also do a list of public debt country wise versus the GDP. You'll find some interesting factors, who is heading where. So these, one is that of course USD being a safe bet, the other one is being the oil trade being held in USD. It has a distinct, far more distinct advantage. So the biggest advantage, as we discussed, is one of the big advantage of USD enjoys the petrodollar, because this is based on the OPEC Agreement, oil trading council agreement, which happens in 1970s, around that time, wherein it is supposed to any trade needs to happen only in USD. And again, the quantum of or the volume of trade settlement which is happening is around 4 trillion US dollars year wise. So that much amount is required, and again the currency exchange is based on the US dollars. So that is an important factor. So that is a big advantage as far as the USD. And naturally, because it is all been done through USD, naturally any country will use forex available for USD. So they have good amount of USD as forex, because it's been traded in the for oil imports. And if you look at it during pandemic, there are countries which face challenge, particularly the countries which are focused on tourism. Those countries faced a major challenge, particularly like countries like Sri Lanka faced a critical challenge because their forex got depleted, because it was dependent on tourism, and tourism was at a standstill, and their forex got depleted. That is also one of the major factor, but they had other factors as well. So because of the oil trade, as I said, and because USD is considered as a reserve currency, any country will build its forex based on USD. So now coming to the challenge. So where is the challenges? The last 30 years, not much of a dispute. The trade happens in USD because of the reserve currency and the OPEC agreements happening. But now, in the last few months, particularly after start of Russia-Ukraine war, so what is happening is that you see few of the countries, including Russia, China, are now trying to challenge this in recent time, meaning the settlement they want to look at in the alternative currency. So now let's assume other countries to along with Russia, China, other countries to accept this oil trading needs to happen in X currency instead of USD. So already China and Russia are trying to have it, particularly China has trying to have an agreement with Saudi Arabia that they want to use their currency, Chinese yuan, towards trading of oil. Let's assume all the other countries due to an agreement try to trade oil in some other currency rather than USD. Then think of a situation, what could happen? Possibly the following could have happened. I mean, that is not maybe in the near future this could happen. So all of them are having their exchange, that is Forex reserve in USD, majority are in USD. If it is in another or oil trade, then they have to convert in another currency. So the country needs to convert their existing Forex to currency X, and countries month on month basis they got a bit of time, they need to build the Forex in the alternative currency X instead of USD. And the point to remember here is the 4 trillion USD trade on oil is happening on year-on-year basis. So naturally, when they start building the other currency X instead of USD, whatever the USD which is there across the globe as a reserve currency has to naturally flow back into the US economy, because there might not be many takers for the USD. There could be few of them for trading, they may use USD, but oil being a 4 trillion USD volume, and if they are going to build in another currency, naturally if they don't use it, it has to fly back, fly back to the US economy. So naturally, when there is more money than what is needed in the US economy, following things could possibly happen. That is where, because there are more money in the market, naturally it might cause inflation due to availability of excess USD in the market. That is one. Number two is losing of reserve currency status, because USD is not, this could have a cyclic effect, because so far USD is used, and if there is going to be an alternative currency used, one is that it could cause inflation, the other one is the status of the reserve currency or Forex, which is held by each of the countries, that could change. So this scenario is what could be can cause to the change in the economic scenario of the world as well. Anyways, all these are early days. We need to see what's happening. I mean, we have the Ukraine Russia war going on as well. So we need to look at, the world need to look at what is the possible solution. So there's so many other factors, but otherwise, as of now, USD as long as it's a reserve currency and the countries are using it for oil trade and having the Forex, there is not going to be any challenges. But in the future, it could happen if all the countries try to use an alternative currency for trading, particularly oil. I hope you found this presentation useful. Thank you. Cheers.